Hi, I'm Parker Buzik, and this is my speech over healthcare, and here's my audience. So, Harvard researchers, they did a study, students at Harvard. They went and found out that, on average, 44,789 people die every single year due to a lack of healthcare. That's almost 45,000 people dying every single year that could have lived on. They could have had lives, had children, grandchildren, even great-great-grandchildren. They could have made memories. And ultimately, they were stripped of that right because of their lack of health care. These are people that would have lived in any other country that they would have had health care. And of those 13,000 deaths of those 45,000 were people in the 55 to 64 age group category. Those are people that could have lived another 30 years, potentially 40 years, if only they had health care. So let's talk about some of the problems with our current health care in America, the United States. Dr. David Himmelstein of the American Journal of Public Health, he did a little study and he found out 25% of Americans are more likely to have unmet health needs, and also 50% of Americans are more likely to avoid getting medicine because of a lack of sufficient health care. That's an epidemic. You could call that an epidemic in our country, because this is half of the nation that aren't getting full medical health care and the medicines that they need simply because they aren't covered or they're afraid they will not be able to afford it. Another study, the Kaiser Family Foundation did a study, and it showed that about 60%, 58% of Americans are unable to seek the proper medical attention that they need. So once again, that's way too many people that in any other country with universal health care or with universal health care, they would have actually been able to get that medical attention, got the medicine they need, and lived on, and not had any financial struggles. Also, the OECD organization, OECD organization, it's an organization of a bunch of countries that are developed and have healthcare, basically. They did a study and showed that in America, 62% of all bankruptcies in America are medical bill related. In some way or form, people cannot afford to pay their medical bills, and they have to file bankruptcy. And of that 62%, 78% of those people had health care to begin with. So that means that there's a large amount of people who have health care in America that still can't pay their medical bills, even with the health care, which is a huge deal because it just shows that even if you are covered, you still aren't. So most of America is underinsured. One last thing, the Commonwealth Fund organization, they took the 11 most wealthiest developed countries and they compared them. And of those 11, the United States ranked 11th overall in health. They ranked 11th in health efficiency, health equity, the health of the average citizen, and the cost of health care. And so they ranked dead last in every single category. And not only that, but they were the only country of those 11 that does not have universal health care. All the other countries had universal health care, and that's why their numbers were so high compared to the United States. But now that we know some of the problems, let's talk about the solutions and why universal health care is right for America. Some examples, France, UK, Germany, Italy, those are 4 countries. Easy examples, there's plenty more, but those are just off the top of my head. Those are 4 countries that have less money than America, but still have universal health care. So one of the arguments is that we can't afford it. Well, all these countries with a lower GDP than us, they can all afford it, so obviously we can. Another thing, Dr. Gerald Friedman, he did a study and showed that 95% of Americans, 95%, almost the entire country, would save money if we had universal health care. And the other 5% are the top 1% of our nation. They're the richest people that actually benefit from having a non-socialized health care. So that is pretty much an anomaly. So it's almost the entire country would benefit from this. He also did another study, the same guy, Dr. Gerald Friedman, and showed that the U.S. government would save upwards of $1.8 trillion in the upcoming 4 years if we went to socialized health care. That's a huge amount of money. People think that we would actually be losing money if we went to socialized health care, when in reality we're saving so much because we don't have to spend money on the companies, the medicines, and overall health care for our citizens. Not only that, but the United Kingdom, just an example of a country that does have socialized health care, the United Kingdom spends 41.5% less per citizen than the United States. So they're spending a ridiculously lower amount of money per individual citizen. Also, the U.S. citizen, on average, spends $8,508 on healthcare every single year, and that's the average. So there are people spending way, way more than that, but it balances out to $8,508 because of the people who don't have medical issues. Now compare that to the average OECD country. All of them have socialized healthcare. They only spend $3,000 a year. So that's 2.5 times more dollars a year than an American citizen would have to spend on healthcare on average, because we do not have universal healthcare. And one last thing, not only would it save lives and save money, but it would also help the economy. One of the biggest problems with starting a new business is you have to quit your job, and quitting your job is sacrificing your healthcare, because jobs, your companies, employers, are the main supply of healthcare in the nation. So people are afraid to start a new business because they're afraid of losing their healthcare, in which case they would be at risk of not being able to afford any medical bills that arise. Well, the Kaufman-Rand Institute of Entrepreneurship, they did a study, and they estimated that if we had universal healthcare, and the average citizen would have that, 33% more businesses would be added every year. So that's about a third increase in amount of businesses in the United States if we went to socialized healthcare. So real quick, we'll recap. If we switch to universal healthcare, we will save almost 50,000 lives per year. Hundreds of thousands of people will be able to eat dinner because they can afford their healthcare and are not filing bankruptcy. And not only that, but it will improve the American economy. The $1.8 trillion, as well as the average household saving money, and the new businesses that will start. And to leave you, I'll send you one graph, or I got a visual aid for you. It is a chart that shows our U.S. average healthcare as opposed to other countries that are in the OECD. All of the countries that the United States is being compared to in this chart have socialized healthcare. And I'll show the camera real fast. What we got here are countries who are spending way less, and then the United States is all the way on the left. They're spending so much more money per citizen on healthcare. And then here, I'll show my audience real fast. That's everything I got. Socialized healthcare for a better America. That's all I got.